So thank you so much to Dr. Carpineti, who is here with us today as part of our LGBTQ plus History Month series. So Dr. Carpineti completed his PhD at Imperial College London in astrophysics. He is now a writer for IFLScience and also has developed the Astroholic. He is also the chair and founder of Pride in STEM, which led to him being named as one of the 100 LGBTQ trailblazers in Attitude magazine. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Mona. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, so you did your PhD at Imperial in astrophysics. So what inspired you to pursue physics at university?
I was always passionate about space. My mom always says that since I was very little, I was obsessed with stars, although I didn't go into stars when I actually started doing physics. But my journey into science actually started here in London, although I'm Italian. At first, I wanted to be a medical doctor, and then I got a passion for dinosaurs. That was just before Jurassic Park came out, and Jurassic Park was a revolution for me. But I came to London with my parents, and we visited the Natural History Museum.
Yeah.
And mind blown. Fossils. I saw fossils for the first time. And with the very little English that I knew at the time, I was reading the panels, and back then there was still it was still unclear how the dinosaurs died off. There was idea about volcanoes, there were a potential asteroid or comets, and there was the idea of this supernova that happened very close to Earth. And I was just like, what is this? I need to know more. I need to know more. So when we went back home, took a big volume from the encyclopedia and started looking into it. And I was just like, it was mind-blowing reading about this concept that was a supernova. And so I asked first for a book about astronomy, and then I asked for a telescope, for a present, and well, that path sort of led me eventually to university, where I started studying astrophysics, and then I did my year abroad here in London, and I was like, oh my god, I love London, this is the place for me. So I then applied for a master in theoretical physics, because after 3 years of doing astrophysics, I was like, am I going too narrow too soon? Should I look at more what is available in physics? And one of the courses was on string theory, and it was way above anything that I could comprehend. So I was like, nope, I like astrophysics. Astrophysics is good for me. And so then I for PhD, and I got it over time.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool journey, and definitely something I can identify with. I grew up visiting the Natural History Museum, so very close to home.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you kind of like started off in astrophysics and then went into theoretical physics, so and then came back to astrophysics. So what was your favorite, I guess, topic in astrophysics that you studied?
Oh, I think anything to do with black holes really hold such a fascination for me. And I think, quite fortunate from a studying point of view that I've been able to study them as astrophysical objects, and also in a way as mathematical objects from the whole concept of general relativity, and also a little bit of quantum mechanics, with all Stephen Hawking's theories about their hairiness, etc. But I've never done research on them. So in a way, it's very much a student love for the subject, rather than, oh, I'm so passionate about them that I actually studied them. My PhD was on galaxy collisions, so there was definitely a lot about supermassive black holes, but it was very much on, I don't need to know about how they work. I don't have to know any more details about the fact that sometimes they just activate and they do stuff that we can model in the wider scheme of a galaxy, not something that I need to fully understand as a precise physical object.
And so why did you decide to, after doing your PhD, become a writer rather than staying in research?
Well, partly circumstances and partly is one of my interests. I was very fortunate in my PhD working in the astrophysics group at Imperial to work alongside such as Roberto Trotta, Dave Clemens, that had a very big interest in public engagement. And something that started while I was there was a series of lectures trying to get the public involved in just hardcore research of astronomy. And I started doing some of my talks, and I was always volunteering to speaking at places and saying things and doing stuff. And I really, really liked it. That it was something that I really felt I had this natural affinity. And when I finished my PhD, I was my first few like jobs were still research adjacent. I was working for a couple of places that were trying to develop journals, etc. But at the same time, I started the Astroholic because I wanted to do something that was more focusing on the public. I started doing some teaching and I started doing some public talks. So eventually this opportunity at IFLScience came up, and I was like, I threw my hat in the ring, and they liked my style, and it's been a very, very good journey.
And so you've written tons of articles. And so what, in your opinion, makes a good article?
Well, you need, I think a good article needs to find the perfect balance in making the science exciting and make it clear that there is so much that we don't know. There is always uncertainty. I think it's very important. As a company, we try, our motto is the lighter side of science. We don't shy away from the negative news, but we try to focus on what is exciting, what is cool about doing science and research, etc. So but it's important that in our quest to make people fall in love with science, we don't ignore the process. And science is uncertainty. Science is hypothesis that could sound really good, and we really want to believe them, but eventually turns out to be false. So I don't know. The article that I literally just finished was about the potential discovery of a pulsar in supernova 1987A, which is the closest supernova to Earth in 400 years. And we think there is a pulsar in there, but we have not been able to see it. So there is this new study that gives enough evidence that all our instincts are probably like, yes, like this must be a pulsar. We see things that are the effect can be explained very easily with a pulsar being crowded by dust and gas. Like if if it sounds like a duck, if it quacks like and it looks like a duck, it's probably a duck. But is it really? And it's always, for as much as sometimes I get excited and I write it in a certain way, then I revise my work. I was like, ooh, to be more skeptical. Ooh, I need to put this or the other option. And the work, the study that I wrote about today, something really good. They had a prediction. They think that if it really is a pulsar, we should be able to see it in less than that, within a decade.
All right.
That's great. That is great, because suddenly I can say, okay, this is all the thing, we're excited, but we can test it within a decade.
Yeah.
Ta-da, this is science. So yes, my advice is, if you ever want to try your hand at public engagement in the written form, try to balance the excitement, and science is very methodical and takes a lot of things to prove that something is correct, even if we really think it's correct.
Yeah. Thank you. That's super useful, I think, especially for a lot of the writers at the Young Scientist channel. So definitely useful tips. You were, well, we briefly mentioned the Astroholic like several times. So could you describe like to the viewers kind of what it is, what you do there, and what inspired you to start it?
Yes. So as I said, I wanted somewhere where I could do a little bit of science communication in my own terms. And I just thought, in a way, I can be my own boss. I can just create something that I enjoy doing, and it's completely up to me when I post, what I post, etc. And at first it was just a blog, and just I used to do some, I always had a lot of people asking me weird questions, and it's always been an absolute pleasure to try to think an answer and explain it to them. So that's always been exciting. But I also doing more journalistic things, like finding new papers and explaining them in lay terms. Then I started doing some videos, which have been very much improved thanks to the entry into my life of my husband, who's professional video editor. So could teach me so much. That's very useful, and it taught me so much about video editing, about like framing, etc.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, him was pretty much pushing for us to start a podcast. And I was, I don't know, I'm having an accent. I always felt that, oh, I don't know, people might not understand me. Now that you watched me, you see that my hand gesture is pretty much 50% of my communications. So like, I really went against the idea of being in a podcast. No, I love podcasts. It's just that felt that wasn't for me. And then it came up with this concept of him asking me questions and me trying to find answer. And I loved the idea. And then he had already come up with a name. It was the Astroholic Explains. He had a logo ready. It's really good. And so just like,
too hard to refuse.
Yeah, it was really hard to refuse. So we started it, and the first years was just us chatting, and we had with some from the public, and then we had one guest in the final episode talking about space junk, and we got so much good feedback about having guests. So the second season, and at the end of the first season, also we had a friend saying, "Ooh, how about you let me produce a special episode? I don't know, maybe you should write a sci-fi story." I was like, I actually have a sci-fi story. So we throw that in the mix. And when we start planning the second season during the first lockdown last year, we start getting more guests. And also a friend of ours said, you should really do more sci-fi stories. So we also did more sci-fi stories. So it's been, the second season has been more of a mix of things. And now we started planning the third season, which is exciting. We already recorded one episode, but it's been a very LGBT History Month for me is a very busy month,
Yeah.
and so I had no time to edit. But we have definitely, I think we have planned 5 so far, and they are really excited. I can't wait to record, but at the same time, I know how busy I am, so I really need to pace myself because this is first and foremost for me.
Well, I can't wait to see them once you've recorded. And
Thank you.
kind of looking back at like your career and time at university, what would you say some of the hardest setbacks have been that you've encountered, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the first project in my PhD wasn't on galaxies. It was a strong gravitational lensing, and it went really bad in the sense that I couldn't hack it. It was too computationally heavy for my skill set,
Right.
and I think at the time I couldn't see it. So I was stubbornly sort of going about trying to find a solution that required me to have a much higher skill set. So that didn't go, but I was lucky to, and I think it's down to luck that as that project was pretty much going nowhere, I was offered a different one.
Right.
And I threw myself completely into that one. So I pretty much spent the first 13 months of my PhD struggling to make any headway. And then in the first 6 months of the new project, I was already presenting a conference.
Wow.
So, and it's definitely luck on finding a project that was suited for me. And also at that point, I really wanted to sort of show off that I could do the work. But it's the fact that I should have done probably more preparation in the first project and probably realized sooner that it wasn't for me. But I'm glad that's how things turned out, because maybe if I realized sooner, I wouldn't have had this opportunity.
So I guess looking at your career again, do you feel that being LGBT has influenced that in any way?
I think so. Definitely my move to London was influenced by the fact that I'm a gay man, and I felt at the time that I couldn't stay in Italy. I didn't see myself in Italy, and I felt that London was a lot more welcoming.
And what inspired you to start Pride in STEM? And like, what are some of the main aims of Pride in STEM?
I will tell you that we didn't start it with any grand plan. We probably didn't realize just how much an organization like this was needed at the time. We actually wanted a working group for Pride in London.
Right.
And there was nothing that was sort of sciencey focused. There was inter-engineering. And I think in the same year or the year after, there was the Proud Creek Alliance, but there wasn't just a general thing for people in STEM that didn't have a specific group to march with. So we put something together, and back then, to be a marching group, you need to sort of be open to other people to contact you and march with you. So needed an email and a little website with a Facebook page on what your ethos was and your general, what kind of vibe you had. And so we were a group of LGBTQ plus scientists, engineers, people in tech and math, and mathematicians, and we just wanted a nice environment where like-minded people could enjoy themselves in Pride in London. And within a few weeks, we started getting in touch. within a few weeks, a lot of people started getting in touch with us, asking for resources and advice, and it was definitely above our pay grade. We knew some stuff. We all been involved in some form of LGBTQ organization, others, university, etc. But we didn't have anything like we didn't have something that we could say, oh, okay, here's things for you to look up. Here's people that you can contact, etc. Over the following month, around Pride and beyond, we had to start. We decided to, okay, we can actually get in touch with Stonewall and our organization, even internationally, and put together some stuff. And then after a few months, people were coming to us like to organize LGBT based event, STEM based event. So we started doing that, and at that point, few friends told us, "You're doing so much work. You probably need a structure, something that people can understand what are you for, etc." And at that point, we decided to apply to become a charitable trust. We created a deed of trust, and the whole point of the organization is to showcase the work of LGBTQ plus people and promote those people and highlight the many barriers that LGBTQ plus people face in STEM, and discuss solutions, etc. And this is only one of the many steps that are necessary for diversity, equality, inclusion, and belonging. We always feel that we are focusing on a particular aspect, but it's simply because there are other organizations that work on different aspects, and we can work with them to work together and change science together for all.
Yeah. And then kind of feeding off of that as the final question, what would be your biggest advice that you would give to any LGBTQ plus students?
Well, it's what I'm going to say is I'm not going to sugarcoat the reality. There are a lot of barriers. There is still so much phobia, so much biphobia, so much transphobia. There is still so much misunderstanding about our community. But be stubborn. Don't give in if you can. Like, if you think your safety is at risk, get out of there fast. But if you think that if you have the capacity and you have the support, and maybe sometimes the privilege to persevering, please do. And if anyone gives you a hard time, send Pride and STEM an email, because I am a very angry Italian with too much time on its hand, and I'm not in academia anymore, so I can burn all the bridges I want, and I will always stay in your corner. So, and it's not just me, there is literally thousands, tens of thousands of LGBTQ plus people across the world doing STEM, and we're all ready to fight.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it was a really insightful interview. I learned so much. I'm sure everybody watching has also learned a lot. So thank you
very much for me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.